Nine out of 10 people sent to prison in Nebraska will eventually be released, and most will need jobs. For those with felonies, that can be a monumental undertaking. Today on Speaking of Nebraska, we'll look at a program helping inmates create business plans to generate their own paychecks. Welcome to Speaking of Nebraska. I'm Bill Kelly. In addition to talking about preparing for life after prison, we want to bring you up to date about the closing days of the state legislature from our man at the Capitol, Fred Knapp. Fred, the senators have all but wrapped this session up. Give us an idea of what they have, and what they have not accomplished at this point.
Well, the big thing that they haven't accomplished is property tax relief, but they've done a lot of middle ground kind of things. They've increased the speed limits from 60 to 65 on state highways, 65 to 70 on expressways and Super 2s. They authorized 100 new beds at the state penitentiary. They increased the age for child safety seats from 6 to 8 years. They addressed problems at the State Patrol, created a new pathway for people to file complaints of sexual harassment, and they're working on authorizing autonomous vehicles on state roads.
When we're talking about autonomous vehicles, we're talking about driverless cars.
Right.
Is this to allow experimentation with driverless cars, or if somebody has one, are they free to take it out on the road now?
Well, it started out as a test pilot program in Lincoln, downtown shuttle between the Capitol and Memorial Stadium and points in between. But it was expanded to now, in the form it is currently, it would be, you can use them on state roads. So we'll see.
There, as you mentioned, property tax relief never really got the kind of traction it needed to pass in a form the governor was talking about, at least. First of all, what were the sticking points, and then what happens next?
Well, it was kind of the reverse Goldilocks syndrome. You know, there were people that said it was too little, there were people that said it was too much, and there weren't enough people that said it was just right. So they never got 33 votes to break a filibuster and get it to a vote on the bill. In addition to that, there is a ballot issue on that subject. There are proposed ballot issues on expanding Medicaid and legalizing medical marijuana. So
are those likely to come this November?
They would be if they get enough signatures, and we won't know that until July.
And with the property tax one, what would we be deciding? What would we be voting on?
Well, you'd be deciding if you wanted to have the state pay half of that portion of your property tax bill that goes to your local public schools. What you wouldn't be deciding is how the state would pay for that if you approved it. And that would be up to the legislature when they come back in January.
Good enough. Is there going to be a special session?
Well, there's talk of by Senator Tom Brewer, and he has 12 other senators who've signed a letter saying, let's have a special session only on property taxes. The governor has said that's a bad idea. The Speaker of the legislature has said that's a bad idea. We will know by April 20th if there are an additional 20 signatures that would be needed to create this special session.
Good enough. Thank you very much, Fred. Thank you for joining us. Through the month of April and heading into the May 15 primary election, NET News will introduce you to some of the candidates on the ballots in key Nebraska offices. You can listen for those stories during our news programming every morning and afternoon on NET Radio, or find those stories on our webpage at netnebraska.org/news. It's difficult, sometimes impossible, for anyone convicted of a felony to find a job and get settled after they've done their time. More than a few did not have steady jobs before they found themselves in prison. So how do you get and break that cycle? The DEFY program has been working at the Nebraska correctional facilities the past couple of years after finding success in New York and California. The goal, get inmates to develop skills they may have already to establish their own legal businesses. The executive director of DEFY Ventures in Nebraska, Jeremy Bowman, joins us now. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Bill.
Has the program settled in a way that you'd hope to after being here for a year and a half now?
We're very pleased. We're about a year and a half in, and we are currently serving 4 prisons here in Nebraska. We also have our program up and running in the community for people with criminal histories. We'll be expanding to a 5th facility in the state by the end of 2018. So we've had a great partnership with state corrections and the wardens and staff at each of the facilities we serve. So we're very pleased with the support we've had.
Is there a target type of inmate that you believe is best served by this program? You call them entrepreneurs in training.
Yeah.
They start out as inmates. Who do you target on this?
You know, the program is open to anybody that wants to participate. So we do have people on sometimes life sentences or longer sentences, but also a number of people who are moving towards release. The program is character development, job readiness, and entrepreneurship. But we're really about full life transformation. And so there are aspects of the program that can benefit anybody, even folks that are going to be likely spending a lot more time in prison. And then there's some very practical components that are more helpful to people who are closer to release. So if people apply to participate in the program, we accept 100% of the applicants.
During these events, you don't refer to them, as I mentioned, as inmates. You use the term entrepreneur in training. Why is that sort of re-identification or rebranding necessary?
I think society has put a lot of labels on people that really highlights the worst thing they've ever done. We use terms like criminal, ex-felon, ex-convict, and to us, they're people, and they're people that have criminal histories, and we don't define them by the worst thing they've ever done. And so when we're working in the facilities, we see people. And because of their skill set, many of them have, where they've hustled, where they've been able to create illegal businesses, and they've been told that skill set is bad. We think there's great marketplace need for those skill sets. And so we call them our entrepreneurs in training, so we can transform that hustle and allow them to use those skill sets to create and form legal businesses upon release.
This is a program that is supported by but not funded by the Department of Corrections. Where does the money
Correct.
come from?
We're privately funded, so we receive support in Nebraska from foundations, corporations, and individuals. We currently do not receive any funding from the state.
You're in part trying to change their outlook in addition to their skill sets. How do you go about doing that? What's the message that you give them?
You know, we give a message of hope, and we create empathy in a number of ways. By doing some of the inside work with our participants, we're working on how to make meaningful apologies, how to be a better parent, how to deal with shame, how to forgive yourself and others, as well as very practical, how do you put your resume together? What is that personal statement when you go in for a job interview? How do you talk about your incarceration that puts you in the best position to succeed? And also giving them that vision that they can start and create their own business if they have that desire and that skill set. And we bring groups of volunteers in. We've had 280 unique volunteers in Nebraska come in to do coaching and mentoring, and that community support raises the spirits. It creates empathy between the volunteers and our EITs, where if I see, Bill, you've been working hard and you're really looking for a different life when you get out, I might be more inclined, now that I've met you and I have context around your life, to give you an opportunity to hire you or make a phone call on your behalf.
Right. Well, last fall, we had a chance to be on hand for the opening group session at the Lincoln Penitentiary with the Defy participants. First time they met their volunteers from the outside. Let's take a look so we can get an idea of how the program operates.
Great.
Defy pushes for a contagious pep rally feel at their events.
I will succeed today. Because succeeding feels good.
Success feels good.
I'm a proud.
This was the second class at the Lincoln Penitentiary, and the first time this class met with volunteers from the outside, people from business, educators, social work. They were here to help these entrepreneurs in training refine plans for their own post-prison businesses.
And good handshake.
Oh, thank you.
Good firmly.
When the outside meets the inside, everybody's a little nervous. They'd rehearsed introductions in advance.
I was a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, where I served as a tank commander and a tank gunner. gotta go off my cheat sheets because I get nervous and we have short time.
They prepared a draft cover letter, the type used when applying for a job.
I speak Arabic, Kurdish, Turkish, and English.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I am from Iraq, northern Iraq, Kurdistan.
And you've been here.
These are also men who sold drugs or stole, sex crimes, violence. But for most, eventually, the jail time will run out.
Don't need to go into detail, but at least say no.
Okay.
It's better than them finding out after they hired you, and then boom, yeah.
And how does someone explain to a potential employer why there is a gap in their employment history, sometimes years and years? How do you explain you're a better person?
I don't pass judgment on anybody. I was not always successful in my life. I made a drastically bad decision.
Here's how Joe Flores handled it.
As a result of my action, I served 12 years in a correctional facility. I used the time, however, to learn from my mistakes and to strengthen my entrepreneurial skills.
I love the honesty. I mean, you just kind of said, here's where I've been, here's where I want to go, here's what I have a dream and aspiration to do, and here's why I'm qualified.
These one-on-one sessions between inmate and volunteers move quickly, like job skills speed dating.
EITs, that you have your personal statement if you need it as a guideline right now.
In the next round, they sought advice from volunteers about ideas for businesses they could realistically start once prison was left behind.
I went completely the wrong way. I hang out with the wrong people. My point is never come back. So that's the whole purpose of me. But also to
Khalaf
support my family
Mamo
to get
dreams of setting up his own grocery store specializing in Mediterranean foods that he grew up on.
There's a great Kurdish community here in Lincoln.
Volunteers give instant feedback. They heard a good idea, but initial plans might be ambitious and expensive.
Maybe one thing that you might do, just very, very small, is just to set up a booth at a farmer's market.
It's not all business and money and salesmanship.
Or just learning how to not talk like a convict, how to talk like a man. And that takes practice. I used to write down words that I had never heard so that I could look them up so that I could improve my vocabulary.
Yeah, I do that now. I got a thesaurus, I got a dictionary.
There is an emphasis on character building and finding a new path. A trademark exercise at Defy rallies is called The Line.
And connect with empathy.
People in prison garb stand face to face with people dressed for work on the outside.
We're all about empathy. I've done something embarrassing as a result of alcohol or drug use.
A series of questions peels back how each side of the line is different and how often there are surprising things in common.
I haven't properly grieved some of my losses. Remember to connect.
By the end of the day, shared stories, sincere advice, hope for success gets everyone excited about the next stage.
See that people actually care about us in here.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much. I wish you continued success.
Appreciate it. Hey, these are people that got me focused here. These are people that keep me grounded and founded in Defy. I want to thank you.
But it's not over. For the Defy participants, there are another 12 weeks of classes. They are expected to take today's advice to heart and refine their business plans.
So you guys can do this. Hang in there, okay? It's 3 more months. Keep pushing through, and help each other. Support each other. If one of you's having a down day, lift each other up. Pull each other through.
No one wanted to be the guy who didn't come through when they met again. That was Jerry Bowman, the executive director of Defy, and he's back with us now. Defy has only been in business nationally for about 8 years now?
Correct.
That isn't a long time to really measure long-term success. What kind of measures are you looking for, and what can you actually call a success at this point?
We can call it success some of the outcomes in terms of employment. We have just been very successful in getting our graduates employed upon release. There's been a number of businesses that have been incorporated nationally, and we track 3-year recidivism rates, and we're below 5% in that tracking. That's best practice in terms of how you track recidivism. But we're seeing other anecdotal things, like the number of misconduct reports go down for the participants in the program. We're seeing that we're starting to change some of the culture, particularly here in the Nebraska prisons, in terms of how the EITs and the general population interact with each other, how they interact with corrections officers. And it is that hope and confidence that really changes a lot of the dynamics in prison.
Explain to me a little bit about what you've heard about that change in dynamics. How do people interact differently after this program?
They talk together more in the yard. We bring disparate gangs together, and we make them commit to the program. And so there's people that typically would not interact otherwise on the yard, but they do because they're part of Defy. And so that's breaking walls down, and that's keeping prisons safer. And there is, you know, the fact that volunteers come in, they're having those opportunities to practice social skills. There's EITs that'll say, I don't know how to talk to people because there's just not that culture here. And that gives them the opportunity to practice and hone those networking skills. And then you have employers that leave and say, you know, we have a policy where we don't hire people with felony backgrounds, but after today, we're going to change that. And so that's the movement of getting more businesses when unemployment is as low as it is, to say that there is an untapped potential market in prisons here in Nebraska to hire and to have really hardworking folks coming out that really need that second chance.
You mentioned an interesting point. There are obviously gang rivalries in prison. At that session that we just saw, the one that I attended, is there the possibility there were people from rival gangs in that same group that day?
There absolutely were.
There was no tension that day. There was no sign of rivalry or whatever. Does that just vanish during these sessions? Does it pick back up later?
You know, it doesn't go away completely, but if you have more context around other people, even people who are also incarcerated, where you share things in common about your childhood, your background, trauma you may have faced, it builds more empathy, it builds more commonality, and we're not so different. It breaks down some of those barriers. And so there is some transformation that happens, and in the context of Defy, it's a safe place. We tell them, you're going to do what you're going to do in the yard, but here we expect you to be respectful and fully participate and treat everybody the way you would like to be treated. But some of that then just naturally carries on into the rest of the facility, which is where we think we're making a big difference.
After the session that we saw, there was another 12 weeks of classes and sessions. What happens during that 12 weeks before graduation?
So the second 3 months of the program are more focused on business and entrepreneurship. So each EIT works on a business plan. Whether they want to start a business or not, they're required to come up with a plan, and the curriculum really drives them to work on that. And the program culminates with a Shark Tank-style business pitch competition where the volunteers come in and they judge. And the curriculum overall is vetted by Baylor University, where they get a certificate in career readiness from the business school there. And so they're really working on that business plan, because a number of our graduates will come out, and if you can't get a job, you know, you'll have to find a way to make money. And if they have a way to create a legal business that can be profitable very quickly, it will, you know, strongly decrease the chances that they're going to go about a legal means, you know, to stay out and to earn a living for them and their family.
Great. Well, we had our cameras on hand for that final group session and the Defy graduation at the State Penitentiary here in Lincoln. Let's take a look. Similar to the program Shark Tank, this was the day Defy participants made the pitch of a lifetime, convince investors to put up money for the businesses they envisioned running when freedom called.
Not only do we trim and cut trees, but we also sell firewood, chipwoods, and boards. For those who believe in Go Green, Jones Tree Service also offers to plant the state Nebraska tree for every tree that we uproot.
The creativity of their business plans matched any school career fair.
You like making money, don't you? Well, good. Now, who's willing to help me activate Paul's House Kennels? When I say pause, you say house. Pause, pause, whose house? Paul's house. Thank you for your time. I am Derek Lewis. I was nervous still doing it. I was still nervous doing it.
Nerves were there, but so was joy. Since the first gathering, the uptick in confidence and the sophistication of the business plans was striking.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Al-Musa. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Red Falafel.
Ahmed did have a head start. Before his arrest, he'd managed Lincoln's first ever falafel and hot dog truck, something he decided to open as a teenager after a return visit with family to Iraq.
What I'm asking for is $20,000 and a mentorship to help me with money management. The $20,000 what I'm going to use is to get an updated trailer or a food truck.
In the early rounds, the judges did not pull their punches, expecting answers of substance to their technical business questions.
Well preserved.
Maybe tell me a little bit about the economics of your food stand. How much are you making on a falafel?
What about operating costs?
Yes, the most expensive permit is the food establishment permit, which costs $499, plus a $65 one-time fee.
The follow-up critiques encouraged even more thought.
I probably would have liked to hear about the economics sooner than me having to ask you a question on them, because they're actually, it's pretty good margin that's built into the business.
The off-season is what I'd worry about. If you could still operate
in their private session, the judges felt Ahmad had made a good impression.
I think Ahmad was more organized, more visionary in terms of his direction.
He already knows what his cost is. He's done it before. He has a good idea as far as what it's going to take.
Families of those jailed, including Ahmad's mother, showed up to hear the presentations of the 5 finalists.
Our next pitch today is from Joe Flores. Born in the Philippines.
Joe Flores was in that group, proposing a drone service for agriculture.
World populations are quickly growing towards 9 billion people.
LaRon, the tree trimmer, made the cut.
I'm the proud CEO and founder of Jones Tree Service. Not only do we trim.
He's in prison for murder. He's a lifer. He took the Defy course so he could help other inmates prepare their business plans in the future.
This is what the falafel looks like. It's right here. I started off with this.
But it was Ahmad who took away the top prize.
Ahmed is a natural-born hustler. He started by selling bikes at the age of 5 in the UN refugee camp. Later in life,
when he gets out, there will be mentors from Defy available, along with $500 applied to getting Big Red Falafel up and running when the business plan is finalized. The family stuck around to watch this Defy class graduate. For many of these men, this was the first time they'd ever been honored to wear a cap and gown for any reason. You were sitting there smiling the whole time like these were your kids watching their graduation home movies.
Yeah.
Do you see that progression in each of these classes?
We do. I love these guys, and we see them come to the kickoff, and they're down. They're not very hopeful about their life, and then to see them hold their head high with their families there, their kids, and walk across that stage and having finished something, and the confidence that gives, it's incredible. It is life transformational. And then to know that we have a community waiting to help them when they come out, that gives them just a lot of hope.
Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to talk with individual inmates. Department of Corrections has a policy that we couldn't record individual. I got mail from a number of them, and they were extremely enthusiastic about the program. But how do you keep that energy up after graduation?
So a number of the graduates end up staying on as peer facilitators. So the lifer that they talk to in the piece, he is a peer facilitator for Defy. So there's usually 10 or 15 graduates that stay and they facilitate small group discussions for the next cohorts. They're our best recruiters. They're amazing mentors for the current participants. We're working on marathon programming that's not quite ready yet, but likely we'll have some curriculum for people that are on longer term and life sentences. So there's some things in the works that we're hoping to do to address that.
When an inmate is getting ready for parole, there's almost a point system, a scorecard that's kept about the progress they're making. They take courses in anger management, Alcoholics Anonymous. As they see problems being solved, the parole board will increase the number of points, if you will. Right now, Defy is not included in that point system. Why is that, and is that something that should be the case?
I don't think it should, because the classes they need to take for parole eligibility are clinical courses for people that have sex offenses in their background, for people that have the need for drug and alcohol rehabilitation. The parole board really loves Defy and the fact that our EITs take the program and they write a nice letter that they all sign and send to the EIT once they graduate. But because we're private and because it's not a clinical program, it's not a parole requirement, but it is certainly something that parole thinks very highly of.
You also provide mentorship, as you mentioned, afterwards. Is there the possibility in even the next couple of years we will see some of these Defy business graduates, I'll call them, operating businesses in Nebraska?
We absolutely will. We have some graduates that are now going into our incubator. We have mentors in the community that are coming alongside folks as they're heading towards incorporation of their businesses. So we will have those success stories in Nebraska very soon.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Jerry Bowman is the Executive Director of Defy Ventures in Nebraska. Thank you for joining us and success with the program. That's all for this edition of Speaking of Nebraska. Next week, the push to get rural Nebraska plugged into the rest of the world with broadband computer access. And Grant Gerlach will be the host. Thank you for joining us, and good night.